all know that Rory Gilmore has impeccable taste in books. The woman loves a classic. She loves Sylvia Plath. She reads good fucking books. Her reading The Year of Magical Thinking at Logan's Cottage, iconic. I read it literally because of that scene. But if Gilmore Girls was shot in 2024, what would Rory Gilmore be reading? I'm sure she would read a lot of the same books, as a lot of the books she was reading were over 100 years old. But I do think there would be some additions that she would be reading for sure. So let's talk about what books Rory Gilmore would be reading if Gilmore Girls was shot in 2024. Rory Gilmore, you would love Just Kids by Patti Smith. This is an amazing book written by Patti Smith. It's a memoir where Patti goes into her relationship, her life partner, her friend, Robert, and they talk about their life as struggling and starving artists in New York City in the 60s. They literally lived just to create art, and it is so inspirational, so motivational, and it's a really good look at the line between friendships and partnerships and romantic love and just how some people are just soulmates no matter where they fit into your life. It's a tragic story, but it's an inspiring one, and it's written so beautifully. I know for a fact Rory Gilmore would eat this up. We know that Rory loves Sylvia Plath and her writing, and she also references Anne Sexton, so I really think she would love the book 3 Martini Afternoons at the Ritz. This takes a look at Anne Sexton and Sylvia Plath's life, as well as their suicide, and really gives us an inside scoop on what was going on in their lives and a really good critical look at their literary works. It's such a good book, and I think with her love for poetry and Sexton and Plath, it would just add another layer to her appreciation for it. So yeah, definitely should be reading that. Boulder by Eva Baltazar, translated by Julia Sanchez. I know Rory would love this. She loves poetry. This isn't poetry, this is fiction, but every single paragraph reads like a poem. I've talked about this book so much on here because I genuinely have changed my outlook on books. This is the probably the best book I've ever read. It's definitely in the top 10. I just really think that Rory would appreciate the really interesting look and critical view of motherhood in this, as she has a lot of interesting opinions of motherhood, I'm sure, watching Emily and then her mother and then now her. Alina Nose by Claudia Pinheiro. Who is the translator for this one? Translated by Frances Riddle. This is a really interesting book. I think it's only 150 pages around there of a mother named Alina whose daughter dies, and it's considered a suicide and written off. But then Alina knows, the mother thinks she knows what actually happened to her, and she won't stop until she reaches it. I really think that Rory would appreciate just the absolutely impeccable writing in this. I think she would enjoy it. The Housekeeper and the Professor. This technically came out when Rory Gilmore was in Gilmore Girls, but I still think that she should have read this. I think it came out around 2004. Housekeeper and the Professor talks about this mother who housekeeps for a professor and then the housekeeper's son. And the son and the professor have a really interesting bond. The professor looks at numbers in a way that's almost artistic instead of mathematical. It's really interesting, and I think Rory, as someone who's good at math, that we know, but doesn't love math, I think she would find this so interesting, how he looks at them through more of an artistic lens, because I think that's also how Rory would appreciate looking at it through. So I definitely think she'd be reading this today. Shoko Smile by Choi Eun-young, translated by Sung Ryu. This is a short story collection that really has my heart. It's a bunch of short stories that really grapple with friendship, love, coming of age. They're mostly coming of age stories of young women. And I think Rory would really appreciate this. I also think that it talks a lot about different culture, Korean cultural things that I think that Rory would appreciate, especially because of her friendship with Lane. I just think that there would be a deeper level of appreciation seeing the kind of life that Lane has lived in juxtaposition with Rory's. But even if that wasn't a thing, I think generally this is just so many good coming of age stories that Rory would really appreciate, especially at her age that she was in Gilmore Girls. Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi is an amazing book that is technically fantasy because it has time travel, but it's definitely rooted in human nature and just our yearning to fix things and go back. Except for what's really cool before the coffee gets cold is that you actually can't fix anything. You can go back, but nothing you're going to do is actually going to change any of the outcomes. And so it really follows these amazingly interesting and intricate characters that just want to go back and talk to someone from their past and just get a glimpse at them. And because of this, because the inability to change the future exists as a rule in this time travel book, it leads the way for some really interesting conversations of like, why would you want to go back in time if you can't actually change anything? And we just see these like extremely raw human reasons for wanting to go back, just to tell someone you love them or revisit a date for the first time. And I think Rory would appreciate the realness and the rawness of this and really appreciate the amazing writing here. And I really think that she would love this book. The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak is such an amazing book that I think Rory would really appreciate. It's about Nazi Germany, and I'm sure you guys have heard of it, so I'm not going to talk about this one for too long. But I do think that Rory would really appreciate the historical fiction, because she has read a few of those that she enjoyed, combined with the human, raw emotions, extremely intricate and developed characters that exist in here. I just think she would really appreciate it and really enjoy it. I'm going to put a pin in my discussion on that because I'm sure you've heard of it, but I do think Rory would like it. Let me know if you agree. And then, of course, I could literally never do a video without bringing up Sally Rooney, because that just would be, like, unethical. I think Rory Gilmore would love Sally Rooney. I think Sally Rooney books have such awful communication in it. I'm sorry, I'm pointing over there because I'm looking at my bookshelves. But I think Rory would really see a lot of Jess in them. And to be clear, I'm a Jess girl. But Rory isn't the greatest at communication either. Maybe I'm a Logan girl, actually. I don't know. I'm definitely not a Dean girl. Rory has pretty bad communication, honestly, in her relationships, and a lot of her partners have had that as well as her mom. And I really do think that Rory would see some of herself in these characters and also just really appreciate it. I'm not even going to give a specific book recommendation. I think Rory would just really like all of Sally Rooney's books. But yeah, I really think if Gilmore Girls would be filmed in 2024, Rory would have some Sally Rooney in her hand, probably all of them at different times. One last honorable mention to Lauren Graham talking as fast as I can. Of course, this book wouldn't exist if Gilmore Girls was filmed in 2024 because it's Lorelai's or Lauren Graham's book about the filming of Gilmore Girls, but I had to put it in because I love it and I love this book. Some people say they don't like it because it's like kind of written like very casually, but I think that's the reason I love it. Like when I'm reading this, I feel like it's Lorelai Gilmore herself telling me the stories. I don't know. I'm a big fan of it. I think Rory would be too, but of course, it's a little bit too meta to understand how that would work. But yeah, let me know if you think I missed any books that Rory Gilmore would love, and let me know if you think I'm wrong about any of these, because I'm actually so curious. I think Rory has amazing taste in books, and I want to know what you think about my suggestions. Oh yeah, and make sure to subscribe if you want to hang out with me more. I do a lot of bookish content on here, and I really appreciate you being here. So, have a good day!